Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. My name is Kelly, and I'm a foster with a rescue in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. And I have a great special guest with me today. Her name is Katya. Is it Katya or Katya? I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly.
You can call me teriyaki if you want, whatever works.
E-
Either one.
I personally hate mispronouncing people's names. I have such a simple name, but I think it's so nice to say people's names correctly. So I'm going to go with Katya. Is that okay?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Katya Lidsky is with me today. She is a writer and trauma-informed certified breathwork facilitator and creative grief coach who focuses on supporting animal shelter staff and volunteers, animal rescuers, veterinary teams, and creatives. She has written for the New York Times, Parents, Texas Monthly, Kinship, and Animal Wellness. And I got that awesome little introduction from her new book, which she sent me a copy of, called Be Your Dog's Best Friend. And so it's about the benefits of mutual bonding and relationship building. So welcome, Katya. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for plugging the book and reading it and letting me send you one and being so welcoming and willing to connect and build community. Thank you.
Yes. So I am about halfway through. I do have a full-time job and I tend to fall asleep the second I open a book. So it's like a whole process for me. So let me know the second it comes out on audiobook and I would have had it done in like 2 hours. But that being said, I have so many you'll see highlighted and quartered pages of subjects and things that I thought were so interesting and that I wanted to talk about. But before we get into the book and the amazing amount of work that you obviously care and love that you put into this book, I want you to tell me about your journey in animal rescue, how you found yourself in animal rescue, and let us all know why we should be hearing from you today.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And what a question, how I got here and why you should be hearing from me. The second one, I may have a harder time just claiming. I'm a middle child, you guys. I'm working on it. It's a lifelong struggle. But I will, you know what? I'm going to start with that one just for the sake of my own growing pains, getting out of my comfort zone. I'm going to tell you, thanks, Callie. I'm going to tell you why I think I should be here today and you should pay attention to maybe what I have to say. Maybe. Did you like the way I threw that in there? Because I'm really passionate about animal welfare. I'm so passionate about animal welfare that it's the only place that I don't have an agenda. It's the only area of my life where something is bigger than me. It's just bigger than my ego. It's bigger than my limiting beliefs. It's bigger than the noise in my head. If I were doing all the things I do just for me, I would be exhausted. But it's so much more that it's life affirming, it's engaging, it's recharging. And that doesn't mean it's not emotionally taxing or inherently stressful. That just means the reason why I do it is something that is like of service in a way that was put in me. It's just part of me. It is intrinsic to who I am. And I would argue that most of us animal people are probably that way. Maybe creative spirits, maybe quote unquote, I say this with love, wonderfully weird. Maybe the one at the dinner table, families growing up who felt like the offbeat drum. Just there to be a highlighter in a sea of black pens. That is my take on us. We're gonna ask why. We're going to gravitate towards injustice and try to do something about it. And I don't know what that force is that compels us, but I have it and I'm proud of it. And it has never led me astray. Of all the things I've ever done, with the love of animals being my North Star, it can't help but be a success, even if it's not financially successful, even if I'm not on Entertainment Tonight dating Idris Elba. Where are you? I just mean it doesn't matter. Like the doing is the win. So that is, yeah, I'm passion driven and I don't, I could tell you my wins, my successes, these articles, this book, a one woman show, like great, blah, all fine. But listen to me because I mean what I say and I say what it means when it comes to them. And that is so lovely. It is so lovely to be more than me. Oh, thank you to whatever goddess out there gave me that gift.
Right. I love about what you're describing, and that I think so many people search for in this life is this something that they connect with that can help propel them forward. And that's what it sounds like to me, is like I'm interpreting it as there's so many things that can get us out of bed on any one given day, but there's so many things that can keep us in that bed. But then if we have this purpose and this drive for something we're passionate about that can kind of help push us forward in the hard times and the bad times, what a gift that is to find that.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. That is such a beautiful way to put it. And what I want to just suggest is like every good thing, even sunshine burns if you get too much. There have been times where I should stay in bed. I should rest. There are times when I'm moving too fast. There are times where I'm obligated instead of intentional. And that doesn't take away from what I'm doing. They're all learning opportunities. And that means that they're all transformational possibilities. They're all places I can grow and change. But the animals, I mean, the short of it is I grew up on the border of Texas and Mexico in a town called Laredo. There's two Laredos, Laredo, Texas, and Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, the other side. And I grew up walking back and forth. It was so fun. And oh, I just love Laredo so much. And they did have a significant stray dog population at the time. And I was the girl who was like, can we please take the scraps and feed those dogs? I mean, I just was concerned. And I just have memories of how exasperating and inconvenient that concern was at times. And that is no fault of my family, who I love probably too much. But it does speak to what I believe, which is that sort of black sheep feeling that I find amongst many animal welfare members. So, yeah, I struggled with addiction, which I mentioned in the book, eating disorder, and it really was needing to take care of an animal that I fell in love with that made me feel like, oh, well, I need to take care of myself or I cannot be available to her. And she saved my life. And she is still, her love is still my idea of a power greater than me. And her name was Ophelia. And I could write 10 books about Ophelia. It wouldn't be enough. It just wouldn't be enough because the truth is she was like this soft, steady, secure orchid growing in a pot in a cave in the dark. And she just kept rooting down, meaning that's what she touched in me. Wherever it was noisy, wherever it was loud or busy or chaotic, the more I shined the light of my attention onto that orchid, the more I knew I would be okay within myself. The more resilience I found, the more self-trust I found. And that really did all come to me because of a dog. She was the light that led me there. I have a friend who's a screenwriter. He was writing a movie. The main character is a pit bull. He said, do you want to stop with me by the South LA Animal Shelter? This was in Los Angeles in 2007, 2006. And I said, sure. And that was the beginning. I never left. I just went, what is this? How many of these dogs are Ophelias? All of them.
That was actually going to be my question. My question was going to be, did rescue work lead you to your first soul dog, or did your first soul dog lead you to rescue work?
My soul dog led me to rescue work.
Tell me about that relationship and tell me about that journey into rescue work.
Yeah, I was hopelessly devoted to her. And again, like proud of it. Didn't matter to me if other people thought I was silly. Didn't matter to me if I missed happy hour drinks. I had Ophelia. And that was the greatest thing that I had to say. And that might sound really small to somebody listening, but I can tell you, as somebody who dreamed of big stages and a big life, it was the biggest thing I had. I felt so whole and complete inside myself when I was with her. And yeah, being an aspiring actress, I'm now an actress in recovery, you guys. I'm a recovering actress. Another place I recover. I, have a lot of creative friends who are just talented and always motivated to create projects. And this one friend took me to the shelter, and it was the South LA shelter, which is now called the South Central shelter. And it was gripping. It still is. It is a place you see the color red. It is very intense and hot to touch. And again, really, the question I remember was, how many of the dogs here are Ophelias? All of them. And they just don't have the person who speaks to that part of them, the person who nurtures the part of them, the person watering the orchid, that person, someone to call out and call forth their potential, their highest self, which for a dog is, in my opinion, a holy thing. It is a spiritual process for me to love an animal.
Well, we see it with not as much, I think, in the shelter environment specifically, because that's so overstimulating and chaotic. But I see it a lot in foster stories and rescue stories specifically, right? Like you see these dogs that maybe have health issues, and not just dogs, right? And animals with health issues or behavior issues, or they're completely shut down. But then they do find that person, whether it's their foster or their forever person, and that animal completely changes. They completely change. I mean, they blossom, they come out of their shell. I think of the one person I follow on Instagram a lot, who I keep DMing to see if she'll come on the podcast, but I'm probably not big enough yet. She's so busy. But Isabel Klee with Simon Sitz, and she does works with Muddy Paw Rescue in New York City. She specifically deals with like the sickly fosters, the behavior fosters, and watching the way she documents those transformations. If you're in the rescue world, you know how real that is with every single dog you get, to just watch them transform. So I love what you say about that. Every single dog sitting in a shelter has an opportunity to be this incredible companion animal. Every single cat, every single bird, every single companion animal. It's just a matter of giving them a chance, giving them an opportunity, having them find their person. So I love that. And you said that was in 2006, 2007, is that?
2007, I believe, is when I started at the shelter. And I want to, Kelly, you really are just so articulate, and you have such a flow with words. And I really want to highlight that. I appreciate it. It feels good to swim with. But I also want to say, to add to your point, that, or just to tease out this one thing that I find to be where I guess I'd like to shine my attention, is this idea that it's not all or nothing. It can't be. So there are dogs who may not be dog park dogs, may not be good with kids, may not be good in packs, may not be good with cats. Like, that doesn't make them unwhole, unworthy, or unable to live a big, beautiful Ophelia-sized life. It just means that not every dog needs the same things to thrive, just like not every person needs the same things to thrive. It's like, and so I think this is where we can overcorrect and cause more problems. It's not about converting a dog to be who we want them to be. It's about accepting the dog that is and raising them to their highest potential by raising ourselves to the highest potential. And if that doesn't involve surrender and acceptance and working with instead of forcing, then we've kind of missed the plot, even in rescue work.
Right. I mean, I could not agree more. And then there is such a place for doing our best to make that puzzle fit when we are talking about rescue work, right? So we do need to make sure, and I talk about this a lot on different episodes, we do need to make sure that we do our best to give that dog an opportunity to fit within the environment that adopter is bringing forth. But as much as we want the dog to fit in that environment, we also need to make sure that as adopters, whatever stage we're in, that we understand that it's not going to be perfect, especially at first, and that it's going to take some time. And there are things about you and your environment that you're going to have to change inevitably, even for the most perfect dog in the world. And it is a two-way street. Nearly 20 years in rescue work it's incredible to me that you are still so passionate about it, right? Because I think that when you are this passionate about something that can have so much of an emotional toll, that it's very easy. And you've probably had periods of burnout. I don't want to imply that you have not. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But I think it's incredible that I'm not hearing that in the conversation that I'm having with you today. Like, you sound as energized about it now as you probably were when you walked into that shelter in LA. And I do want to start talking about your book a little bit because I really have enjoyed, working through it. It comes across in the book how much this journey has meant to you as an individual. So obviously, it seems like the whole point of the book is how can we be better for our dogs? But what I found a lot is that you have used your relationship with dogs to improve yourself in so many ways. You touched on it with your addiction, you touch on it with your eating disorder. And even in the preface, you kind of touch on something that I have myself related to. So if it's okay with you, I want to just read a small section and then we can talk about that. Is that all right?
Thank you, Kelly.
I wanted to propel you to adopt a dog because that dog was going to die. I wanted to engineer pity in you and persuade you to adopt a dog who was suffering. I wasn't asking about you, your needs, your wishes. I simply wanted you to go save a dog because those dogs were what mattered to me. Now, I still care a lot about animals, but I don't emotionally manipulate other people anymore with lectures about the selflessness of rescuing, even though there is certainly some truth to that. Because if we rely on emotional manipulation to get animals rescued, we will only reach people who can be emotionally manipulated. I want you to talk to me about that because I literally highlighted it and was like, that I understand that. I get that. So tell me a little bit about that statement and what that means to you.
Thank you for asking the most controversial part. Maybe that's why I started so self-deprecating, just in case. Yeah, no, it is time, I think, to talk about this area. I want to say that I treat it with a tender hand, kid gloves, whatever the phrase might be, because it can sound like I'm blaming the very people who do the most meaningful, selfless work, which are all of us: fosters, volunteers, rescuers, networkers, transporters, even shelter staff. Though they get paid and whatever, they're still doing really great work. Many of them. I'm not blaming them, us. I'm just merely suggesting that whenever blame and shame arise, there's something going on inside that needs tending to. And the one who's ignoring it is you yourself. And I believe that right now it is unfair to use the animals as a go-between, as the hot potato of where we're hurting and where we decided to source the relief of that pain. The animals are not there to relieve our pain. Saving animals is not to make us feel better. That is not why those animals exist. And it can't be. Because if it is, then we need them to be unwell so that we can save them, so that we can get the hit of feeling good. So we got to be a little more careful and awake as a rescue community, as an animal welfare community, in my opinion, to be well so that our messaging around pet adoption touches upon all the gifts and all the benefits and all the wellness that having an animal brings to your life, so that we call in and attract balanced, healthy adopters, which is what I'd like to see more of. I don't want to find people who are going, oh, I already have 6 dogs and 2 don't get along, but that dog's going to die. It's on me. There are 12-step meetings for that. I go to them. If I am willing to make that post, to make you get off your chair and run and bring home the 7th dog, whether or not you can afford it, whether or not it's good for you, whether or not you've thought it through, I'm doing that for me. I'm not doing that for the community. I'm not doing that for you. And I'm putting the dog on the roulette table. Now it's on the dog to absorb the human unawarenesses that are going on. It's the dogs who go over there. It's the dogs who get returned. It's the dogs who get let out on the street, or the cats, or the birds, or the gerbils, or the bunnies, etc. They pay the price when we're asleep. So we emotionally manipulate, not because anyone's, may I curse, an asshole. We don't, nobody emotionally, that's not true. I'm not going to say nobody. I'm certainly not a therapist. So I don't know how many people are pathologically inclined. I would wager most people do not emotionally manipulate out of cruel intention, on purpose, to be mean. We emotionally manipulate because we're being emotionally manipulated. We emotionally manipulate it because we think it's normal. We emotionally manipulate because it's cheap, easy, low-hanging fruit. We emotionally manipulate because guess what? That's how capitalist America works. That's why you and I buy things. If you're good inside, if you feel well, balance, and bliss, you don't need to buy anything. It's really bad for the market. We cannot treat animals like a product and then get mad that people return them like products. We're part of it. We go first. We're the ones who care. Let it start with us. We get well. We get balance. And I am so, so, so in love with pouring into the animal welfare community. The reason I'm still excited and lit up by this work is because I somehow was given whatever thing by whatever you believe in. And this is just how it feels to me, that I don't feel attached. I don't need anything from it. I want to be there. So when you walk out on the ocean on the beach to the ocean, there's a line where the water meets the sand, and that line changes all the time. One wave at a time, it changes. And you better move, because if you want your feet to get wet, it will not be where you were standing 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago. You move. It's alive. That's what love is to me. It moves. It's alive. So I didn't want to do breath work and grief work and programs to support animal shelter staff and volunteers and rescuers 5 years ago. But for the past 5 years, I've slowly getting my certifications, doing all my practicum hours at shelters and rescues. I've realized, oh my God, I love them as much as I love the animals. What? I didn't know that. And they deserve, we deserve, at no barriers of cost or time, to be poured into so we can do this work, so that burnout goes down, compassion fatigue goes down, and retention goes up. What would it be like? What would the entire atmosphere of the shelter be like? How much can that environment elevate? Because people know how to effectively communicate or reduce their stress or be a team or take a pause or feel empowered. I mean, what would it be like to sit with an animal and not be in a bad mood or stressed or defeated or down, but instead to carry an energy of borrow some of my wellness. Do you remember home? It feels like this joy I'm carrying in, this balanced well-being. Do you want some? That's what I'm interested in bringing to animals.
One of the things that you said that rings truest to me is that we use emotional manipulation to appeal to the people we're talking to about these animals, because we are emotional about them, right? And it is simple and it is easy, because when you use other I'm just going to say selling points, because that's essentially what you're doing, right? It's a sales technique. I'm a salesperson. That's where my head goes by trade. So when you use other things, when you talk about the logic behind it, your whole schedule is going to change. Your whole expenses are going to change. The way that your household runs and interacts with each other is going to change. Again, regardless of what animal you bring into the picture, you kind of get less of that emotional attachment, because now you're applying logic to it and you're kind of giving people sort of the whole picture. And when you give people the whole picture of anything you're bringing bringing forward. You're giving them the pros and the cons. So it's a lot easier for them to say no. But like to your point, when someone is making that decision to adopt, to bring an animal into their home, and they have that whole picture, they're going to stick. That's going to stick. That's going to be a successful adoption. And I know you said you've been listening to the podcast, so you've probably heard about the foster I have now, who's a behavior case. Yep. And he's had more than one application. And now it's getting to the point where on the front end of the application process, I am saying, hey, before we run this is what you need to know about this dog. And he's still with me. So for every single one, it's been a turnoff. But I know that when I have that conversation with somebody and they say, yeah, I still want him, it's so much more likely that that's going to be his forever family. That's going to be his forever person. So we have to make sure that like you said, that as rescuers, that we're not using our own emotions as sort of this launch point to get people to adopt, because ultimately it's so much less likely to be a good fit when we're just using that appeal. Once that dopamine hit is gone of bringing that new animal into the house based on that emotion and things get real, I mean, it gets hard. And that's when we do see these returns. I mean, we've seen returns as early as like 3 hours after an adoption.
Totally.
That's a failure on the part of the rescue as much as it's a failure on the part of the adopter, unfortunately.
Look, at the end of the day, we also forget that nonprofits, they're not private entities. They're publicly owned. We work for the people. That's what a nonprofit is. If you're in a municipal government system, even more. I'm sorry. We have to like people. We have to build bridges. We work for them. They are our boss. Our doors can close if someone doesn't want to give us money. Our doors can close if the city decides. So that's just the reality. But to your point about if you say things up front, if you sell, quote unquote, sell differently, things change. Don't we want things to change? Isn't that the whole point? If this was working so well, wouldn't the shelters be empty? They're not. It's worse than ever out here. So, yep, I guess I'm calling for change. I guess I'm putting up a flag for change, not because I think anyone's doing a bad job, but because I think this is a missing piece. And what it ends up doing is, look, people who cross your boundaries get their boundaries crossed. It feels normal. People who were raged at. These are normal, natural wounds that happen. And becoming a person who doesn't outsource my well-being over there, but instead takes responsibility, not blame, but responsibility, means that I heal those wounds. And that work is not, I don't check that off the list. That's every day. That's consistent and imperfect and messy. Does it mean animals are going to be euthanized? Yes, probably. Are animals getting euthanized now? Yep, they are. Is it a reality I despise that keeps me up at night? Sure. Are their fates worse than death? Yep, many. So we're talking about the fact that we have no control. And if the animals become a way to band-aid our lack of control, if the animals are there to give us a sense of, I know what to do with my time. And I'm not talking about not having purpose, I think is a beautiful thing. But if animals are filling a missing hole, then we need them there. We need them there in cages. If the only way we get people in to adopt is to tell them these animals are going to die, then we need to be killing animals. The answer becomes the question. The question feeds on the answer. Change is really scary. You don't know what it's going to bring. Yep, that's the point of it. It's uncertain, and it's something new. It's new. It's different. And at this point, what we've been doing isn't really working. I don't know if this relates for you, but it relates for me when it comes to a rescue that people love. And 3 years down the line, they hate. It's a hoarder. The person went off the deep end. That person is a hair away from you and me. That person is just stopped checking in. That person is a hair away. And I say that as a person who literally, truly is a recovering addict. We're all a hair away. Why isn't there a movement to love that person up? Why aren't we helping the hoarder? What's going on? mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What do you need? We need you in this community. We're so quick to push you out. Not you and not you. Well, who's left? Just you? Now you're the one with the problem because you're the one who needs to be needed. You've created a monster in the vigilance of others monsters. I'm not saying you, Kelly. I'm saying these cycles are so fertile in animal welfare. They're all over the place. They pop up over and over and over again. And it is not because we're faulty or flawed. It is not because there's anything wrong with us. It's because we don't have support.
Mm-hmm.
We are holding the front line with no ammunition, no general. We are not supported. There's no structure to really support us. There's a lot of people reacting. There's a lot of shifting expectations. There's a lot of lack of communication and a lot of emotion. But who's holding the front line? Who's taking care of them?
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. And the reason I say that is because, everything you're saying is so true. In the very two short years I've been fostering, I saw a case like that directly. And I saw the aftermath of a case like that where a rescuer became a hoarder, it became an issue, and that had to be dealt with. So I'm going to push back a little bit and I'm going to say, what are practical steps that can be taken to make those changes? Because ultimately, all of the people I deal with personally, and many of the people that I've had conversations with are either unpaid volunteers,
Sure,
or low paid shelter workers, right? And so these people are already, taking these front lines and taking these burdens. How do we get out of this vicious cycle? How do we make any real change? And I know a lot of it comes from personally from within, but that's one by one by one. I mean, that's building the Great Wall, literally one stone at a time. How do we actually get it done?
I love that you called that out. Yes, it is one by one by one. Yes, it is. It's like spay and neuter. It's like it doesn't raise a lot of money because it's just like one. We spayed 17 cats. Yeah, that's a lot, but it doesn't feel as sensational. So I think we realize and accept that the it is slow, quiet, hard work, and that's what makes it beautiful and meaningful and valuable. It is one-on-one. I am doing everything I can to create programming and raise funds for workshops that I can offer virtually on group levels to volunteers and staff, cost absorbed by companies and donors, so that I show up for free and I give practical tools, experiential tools. I know some wonderful people doing compassion fatigue, education, the information. Jessica Dolce, Compassionate Badassery, she's incredible. There are animal chaplains. There are incredible books like Trauma Stewardship by Lidsky, very similar to my last name, but it's with a P. She wrote an amazing book called Trauma Stewardship about what happens when we're repeatedly exposed to trauma, how that shapes our worldview and changes us slowly over time. I'm interested in what I can bring is, I wish I had more skills, you guys. I wish I knew more and had more letters behind my name. But as of today, what I can bring and what I believe in and what I do and what has changed my life is somatic. It's experiences, teaching people breath work. Yeah, breath work is a boundary. You can be anywhere and in your mind decide to take the attention away from the people you're focusing on who are pissing you off and put it back on yourself and say, I'm going to breathe, count of 4, inhale, hold for 2, and exhale to 8. And I'm going to put all that attention on me. I'm tending to me. Breathwork is a boundary, and it can happen. Literally, it's happening right now, where everyone is lucky enough to be breathing. So I teach breathwork. Breathwork is joy. Breathwork is fun. Can we have some lightheartedness? Is that allowed in animal welfare? Creative grief circles. What is it like to take kennel cards and make art? Make art, something beautiful. Pay homage. one card with a poem behind it. Cut up a million faces. It doesn't matter. Paint rocks. Put them in a sack and tell someone you love, hold this bag. This is what I'm carrying. This is how many I lost this month. Make it real. Ritualize it. Take the things that you're carrying them, and let them go. When we attach to our pain, we become our pain, and the animals don't need it. So I am interested in somatic experiences. Can there be a fun retreat? Can I open my doors to a barn in Austin and say, we are going to have a dance party, lights off, don't worry, everyone will be dancing in the dark, vegan food, we're going to make art out of collars and leashes and cat toys. We're going to have an experience as a community together, and we're going to have some joy, and we're going to process together. And that's enough. Let it happen in you. I can't tell you how it's going to go, but I can be with you while it goes. You're going to get what you need. Where are those spaces? Where are those communities? Where's the opportunity? Why aren't there people coming for 10-minute massages to shelters? Why isn't there a yoga class? Why can't there be a wish jar? Hey, if anyone has an idea, the vision that they want for their shelter, just anonymously write it in a Post-it right here and throw it in the jar. Let someone read them. Put them up on the wall. Just love it. Love yourself. Let it love you back. It cannot just be loving the animals. We won't make it. We end up leaving. Staying in suffering is leaving. It's the same thing. It's not stay or suffer and leave. It's stay and suffer and you're not there, or leave. That cannot be the only options that animals have. They pay the price for it.
So I want to talk about a moment you talk about in your book, because I think this is a good place to talk about that, because we're talking a lot about that big picture change. But to your point, it's the little changes within us that are going to move these things forward. And one of the things that you say is, I still get impatient, grit my teeth, and beg a foster to hurry up and pee in an utterly irritated tone of voice as I stand outside getting bitten by mosquitoes. I am still flawed and flailing. So I want to ask two questions based on that statement. My first question is, how do you in that moment get past that frustration? Because it sounds like you are doing your best to be an intentional person to move past these things when they do overwhelm you. And then my second question is, how would you talk to both someone who's considering fostering and someone who's been fostering or in rescue for a really long time and who's feeling some of that fatigue and that burnout? How would you recommend they move past those moments? I'll let you go from that.
Such a great question. Thank you, Kelly. I mean, I think that everybody probably has a customized or individualized answer. But for me, when I'm in those moments, the minute I'm noticing, I'm no longer in the moment. The minute I'm aware, I'm not just doing that thing. So everyone always, at all moments, has a direct experience going on, life, and the access to awareness, like a drone view hovering above, of what's happening. And in between, there's the story we tell ourselves, the meaning we make about what's happening. Sometimes in wellness spaces, I think what happens is we hear, lie to yourself about what's happening, or make sure awareness feels great. Well, sometimes awareness hurts and feels scary or feels like anything, because all things are part of the human experience. And sometimes a direct experience is annoying. Like my dog if it's 4 a.m. and I'm awake to take you to pee and you're having fun eating a twig. Why? Go to the bathroom. But the meaning I make, now that part is invisible. And that part is optional. It's mutatable. It is a constant choice. All we have to do is understand that. It's a story. What ends up happening is the stories we make and the meanings we make attract in charge and scope. a middle child. If I sit down at dinner and go, my parents love me the least, and I look for evidence of that, that's the story I'm telling myself. You better believe I'm going to look for that with my friends. I might even look for it in boyfriends. I might look for reasons that I'm not that successful. I'm kind of a failure. I might constantly attract that kind of, whether it's happening or not, is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how I feel because of the story I'm telling myself. And you can actually change that at any time. I don't recommend being Pollyanna, being like, I'm very successful. I am a millionaire. I'm not asking us to lie to ourselves. I'm asking us to consider that in the moment that it's 4 a.m. and my Healer Hound mix, because I guess I like violence. Libby.
You really chose a real interesting mix there with Healer Hound. Mike,
what am I doing? So distracted that she can't go to the bathroom. In that moment, I can go, oh my God, I'm so annoyed. She's never going to be trained. And that is an option. But I can also go, I wonder if there's a benefit to being outside at 4 a.m. It's really peaceful outside. You know what? I really am grateful that Libby gets to express herself and be authentic with me. She's too scared to do that to other adults in her life. But with me, she'll wake me up. Libby brings something different than Ophelia did. Maybe because I don't need what Ophelia brought. I've already been Ophelia'd. I need what Libby brought. Wonder what that could be. Does it have something to do with early mornings? Or patience? Or surrendering control? Maybe. But I get to open the aperture. Could it mean this? Is this what's going on? And the second I do that, my back softens. I feel it in my body, because your body is your weather vane. And I go, oh, she's not just defying me and being a punk. There could be something else. And I get to pick. And that picking is my job, and it is my responsibility, and it will determine the way my life feels. And that's not anyone else's fault. That's not Libby's fault. That's on me. No one told me, but I know it now. And I really would love to tell a foster, a burnt out person, a new foster, a person who's just exasperated beyond belief by their animal. Oh, let's write down the meanings we're making. Can you give me 6 other ones? They don't have to be great, but just not that one, because you're just assuming it as a fact, only because you're not exploring the other meanings and stories that you could be choosing.
I think it's one of the mistakes that we make. And I don't think that these are intentional things. I think it's very easy to succumb to whatever emotion we're feeling. We're just going to use frustration as the trigger here, right? But so because we've had to reschedule, I lost my dog on Friday, and we are recording the following Tuesday or Wednesday. Sorry, today's Wednesday. So it hasn't even been a week, right? And I'm in that period where I'm thinking a lot about him, and I'm thinking a lot about, the last couple of years we spent with him, and I'm thinking a lot about that. And in this time in my relationship with him, all of the things that were frustrating as he got older and as he got harder to take care of, they don't feel frustrating anymore. Like, I just miss them. He would demand a walk, and it did not matter if it was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and we were tired. If he wanted to go outside for a walk, he was not going to sleep, or he was not eating until that was done. And then if he didn't eat and we went to bed and it was 1 a.m, he would wake us up to eat. At the time, it was so frustrating. It was so hard. And now I look at it and I am going to say that cliche thing of like, I wish he was here to demand that walk of me tonight. It's cold outside. It's raining. Ice is probably starting. And I wish he was here to demand that of me tonight. But he's not. And so I feel like what you're describing is not waiting until you don't have that relationship anymore for whatever reason, maybe because they got adopted, or maybe because they passed, or maybe because you got out of that work, right? like, don't wait until you don't have that relationship anymore. Try with everything you have within that moment of frustration to not necessarily say, I'm going to miss this one day, because that's kind of futile and it's not really going to carry any weight. But maybe to say, okay, like, what could else could be going on here? I know this dog loves me. I know this animal loves me. I know that it's just trying to work through it here too. Do I need to step back and tell this different narrative? Because I'm telling a different narrative now, and I'm telling a different story now that Snowy's gone, right? I'm comfortable with that. So it's alive. And so that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like a little bit of like affirmations. It's a little bit of appreciating that moment so that it doesn't pass you by and you're thinking about it when your animal is gone.
It's so beautiful that you lifted that up, because grief is a great motivator for story changes, sickness, people getting ill. Like, we don't have to wait until a big thing happens to appreciate or love moments of our life. Your life is right now, and your presence can be filled with however you want it to feel. It just requires detaching from the idea that you're your pain or you're your story, because you're not. You're more. And if we can dare do what you just did in life, then we get to make the moments count while we're living them. And it's really tender, because it means you're going to hurt when something goes away. Guess what? You're going to hurt anyway. You're going to hurt anyway. There's no way you can't. It's like when people are like, did I wait too soon to put them down? Did I go too soon? Did I wait too long? They died in their sleep. There's no avoiding the question if you love an animal, whether the animal passed on their own or something happened and you had to make a decision. You're going to have a question, because it's grief. And you're absolutely right. Instead of waiting for life to happen to you, you can do everything you can now to take control of your life that way. Thank you for saying it that way. And I am so sorry about Snowball. And if you want me to text you at 1 a.m, I will.
You're very sweet. I mean, not to necessarily, bring all of that into this, because I actually just released an episode yesterday where I talk about it with a really good friend, because she recently also put down her 10-year-old dog. But I consider myself a very pragmatic person, and I miss him, but I'm finding that I miss him in that every day. It's like you don't realize how much of your life and how much of your energy is dedicated to this thing, and how much of your thought process and literally the way you carry yourself through this world is dedicated to this thing. And then it's gone, and you don't have to think about it anymore, because it's just not there. You don't have to think about, when am I going to put him in the car? When am I going to make sure he goes out to go to the bathroom? When am I going to make sure he gets fed? Because he required a lot of care the last 2 years. So it's just, that's the part of the grief that I'm in now, is sort of adjusting my everyday, even though I still have my resident dog and my foster dog. It's sort of like, it's that new stage of my life I'm in without Snowy. And I think if we can just go back a little bit to that burnout with rescue and with fosters, because if anybody is listening right now in rescue, in foster, and they are feeling frustrated or they are feeling burnt out, I think the reality of it is you've got to find a way to set that boundary for yourself so that you can reconnect with the reason that you went to rescue to begin with, right? And so maybe that does mean taking a break. Maybe that does mean shifting the way that you volunteer. Maybe that even means volunteering with a different organization, because there's not a single rescue organization that does not need volunteers. Sure. Maybe that means, just changing your relationship with it so that you can continue to kind of refine that passion, and really figuring out where your feet are going to be in the sand to make sure that they still get wet.
So, yeah, I love the way you put that. It is so, so true. And please know that I am one of, and I know there are others of people who will, sometimes we need a witness and someone to hear us, have an experience with us. And sometimes that really can be enough to release or recharge, to process something, or not. And you're pointed in another direction. But in the effort to care for yourself, I'm going to take 30 minutes and talk to this person. what you're saying to yourself is, I'm worth it. Whether there's a transformation or not, it doesn't matter. If you pause and take 3 deep breaths, it doesn't really matter what those 3 deep breaths make you feel in the end. It matters that you took the pause for you. It's a devotion to self. It's a demonstration of what you deserve. That's the piece.
So here's what I'd like to do, because I know you have to wrap up and I respect your schedule tremendously. 2 things. I'd like to get a organization that you are personally connected to, where I can find a rescue animal that needs a little bit of highlight, so I can add a foster spotlight. So I want you to give me that. And then also, if it's all right with you, I'd like to invite you to come back on, and I want to talk more about the behavior connection that you feel like is so important when it comes to working with a rescue animal, specifically a dog. Because I think there's so much about the way that you approach that relationship that we could all stand to learn.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I would love to hang out with you as much as you'll tolerate me.
Oh.
And I will say I'll send you a rescue. I love a purposeful rescue. In Los Angeles, they do seniors. But I also North Central Animal Shelter. It's just full of some amazing dogs. I'll send you a bunch. And I want to thank you for what you're doing and the labor of love. The way that you have the self-discipline and the self-inspiration and the self-motivation and the self-expression to make this show happen. It's just not a small thing. So I want to just continue to hold that up, because we need your voice, and to show up and say, okay, here it is actually really generous to everybody else.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. And thank you so much for being generous with your time today. I know we had some scheduling snafus that we had to get through so that we can connect. I'm so glad that we did. And I'm so excited to finish your book. And I will connect with you soon, and we will get you back on here shortly. Thank you again, Katya.
Thanks, Kelly.
Today for the Foster Spotlight, I'm going to record a dog that Katya sent to me that's with LA Animal Services out in Los Angeles, California. And it looks like this sweet senior girl needs a little bit of extra attention. So I will put her link in the show notes. But her name is Sweetheart. She's a spayed female. She's only about 42 pounds. And she's clearly just like the sweetest senior girl. They did a little bit of a post on her on Instagram and said that Sweetheart is a lovely senior pup. She's 9 years old, weighs 42 pounds, and is spayed. Sweetheart is a staff and volunteer favorite that loves to cuddle, knows her sit command, and is a gentle gal that lives up to her name. Sweetheart will be available to adopt or foster from our North Central Center after 3 p.m. as of the day of that posting, which means she is available now at the North Central Shelter in Los Angeles, California. And she just looks really sweet, and she really needs to break out of the shelter and find herself an awesome forever home for her senior years. So if you are in the LA area and you're interested in checking out Sweetheart, go to laanimalservices.com, or you can click on the link in the show notes or check out my profile on Instagram, and her feature from LA Animal Services will be on there. So as always, you can follow the show at the Foster Files Podcast on Instagram. You can send me an email with any interview recommendations or ideas or suggestions at the Foster Files Podcast at Gmail. And as always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to animals, and have a wonderful holiday season.